this was designed to avoid default for Greece, and yet there will be a haircut, so-called haircut of 53% of the principal lent. How is that not a default?
Good question. It actually is a default. It's technically speaking a default. The credit rating agencies will say that Greece has defaulted on its debt. The thing that the governments were trying to avoid was triggering the credit default swaps that are linked to Greece's debt. So having those default swaps pay out to their holders. They wanted to keep this quote-unquote voluntary to, I guess, preserve the illusion that this is sort of a cooperative process with bondholders. Although the reality is that Greece's private sector creditors had little option other than to participate.
So, Matthew, that means, I mean, listen, we've had deal after deal after deal on the table. Is this the real deal?
It should hold for a few months, I think.
As long as that, as long as a few months.
Matthew, your confidence in that answer is underwhelming.
Well, no, it's there are a number of things that could happen in the coming months. First of all, there are elections coming up, Greek elections coming up. So they have a technocratic government headed by Lucas Papadimos, who's a former ECB official. But the elections are coming up. The measures that Greece agreed to adopt in exchange for this bailout are extremely unpopular. Once the campaign starts, you've had politicians suggest that Greece can renegotiate the terms of the bailout. And if that starts happening, if Greece starts dragging its feet and implementing its reforms, that could really cause the bailout to be called into question by Greece's European partners. Also,
what you just described, Matthew, is what I think is going to happen. I think that is basically he's given us the news of the next few months, don't you, Bob?
Right. I agree with that. I think the partners are going to be critical to deciding exactly what the future holds.
So carry on, Matthew. I interrupted you. I'm sorry.
Well, that's right. And I think the other thing that can happen is also that these measures could have a pretty deep impact on the Greek economy, deeper than expected. The history of the Greek reform program has been that austerity has always had a worse than expected impact on the economy. And when that happens, it's going to be even harder for the Greek politicians. Public outrage is going to grow, only makes things harder to carry out this reform program. And Christine Lagarde said at the press conference last night that this is indeed a very challenging program.
Okay, but Matthew, nevertheless, this does seem like good news to us. Do we have a Greek bailout, and does that mean that the prospect for contagion around the European zone has been diminished?
Yes, that is true for the moment. What they were really afraid of is the so-called chaotic default, in which basically Greece declared bankruptcy, started dictating terms to its creditors, and forcing them to accept losses. Right now, this is kind of a negotiation between Greece's creditors and Greece. So there is the threat of a chaotic default that could cause Portuguese bond yields, Italian bond yields to spike again has been averted, and that's good news.
That's good news. I want to go back to what you were talking about before, which was these credit default swaps, these insurance against a bond defaulting. Why do we care if they get triggered? I mean, if a bank was stupid enough to write insurance against dodgy bonds, well, that's their problem, right?
Okay, we also went through this in 2007 in the United States.
Yes,
because you cleave the credit default swap from the underlying debt instrument, and you're wreaking havoc.
Well, I mean, but that's their fault, though. I didn't make that. I didn't write that insurance. So, if I'm a taxpayer in Europe, I didn't write that. So why should I care? Just let a bank go under. So what?
It's an excellent question. It's always been a little bit of mystery as to why European governments care so much about these credit default swaps, which are really only about 2 or 3 billion. There's only about 2 or 3 billion worth of CDS that's been written on Greek bonds. There's actually, I think a lot of it has to do with this kind of paranoia that there are speculators attacking the Eurozone and speculators betting against Eurozone governments. And that's what you're doing when you are writing, when you've bought CDS, is you're buying an insurance policy against default. So if there is this default, the insurance contracts pay off. But I mean, the sums here are small compared to Greece's overall debt, and it's always been unclear to me why they're spending so much time worrying about the CDS payment.
All right, Matthew, last question. What's next? What's the next step in this process?
Well, they're going to launch the bond exchange in the next few days, and hopefully, if that goes according to plan, the bond should be swapped without a hitch. Then the process goes to watching Greece implement the reforms that it's promised to implement, and there's a big package. There's a 22% cut in the minimum wage that could, that is a really tough pill for the Greek economy and for Greek politicians to swallow. There are the Greek elections coming up in April, so it's worth paying close attention to what the politicians are saying about the program as they campaign.